Today is Tuesday, October 1st. What to know about the Dockworkers strike happening now and the impact it could have on consumers in the months ahead. And we'll tell you what to expect from tonight's vice presidential debate, including a new way to fact-check the candidates in real time. Also, a major step toward a wider war in the Middle East as Israel sends ground troops into Lebanon. Plus, the longest-living U.S. president marks his 100th birthday, the deal that could create the largest pay TV service in America, and why people across the country couldn't use their cell phones for hours. Those stories and even more news to know next. Welcome to The Newsworthy. All the day's news in around 10 minutes. Fast, fair, fun, and on the go. I'm Erica Mandy. Thanks so much for being here. You ready? Let's do this. Well, as of midnight this morning, dock workers at every major port from Maine to Texas are on strike. And this is a huge deal, since more than half of the nation's container imports and exports flow through the East and Gulf Coast ports. It comes after a months-long standoff between the union, representing tens of thousands of dock workers who load and unload cargo at ports, and the group representing the employers. They've been disagreeing about wages and benefits, as well as the use of automated machinery. Reports say a strike could have almost immediate impacts on imported supplies that are perishable. Think bananas, for example. And even a short strike could have ripple effects on shipping, creating a backlog on various goods that lasts weeks. Then, if the strike drags on for a while, it could impact the holiday shopping season. Already, many retailers have rushed in items early or rerouted their goods to West Coast ports to try to get ahead of a possible strike. And those extra costs could be passed on to consumers. So trade groups representing retailers and manufacturers are asking the Biden administration to use federal labor law to step in and force an end to the strike. But so far, that's not happening. Biden administration officials have urged both sides to negotiate more, but otherwise President Biden said it's best if the employers and workers can make a deal themselves. Though some experts say the president may be more likely to step in if the strike lasts longer than a week or two. So, to be continued. The Israeli military says it now has begun a ground operation in Lebanon, marking a significant escalation in the conflict with Hezbollah. Israel described the move as limited, localized ground raids in southern Lebanon that will target villages near the border that pose an immediate threat to Israeli communities. No word yet on how long this operation may last, but Israel has said it'll continue to strike Hezbollah until it's safe for displaced Israelis to return to their homes along the Israel-Lebanon border. Hezbollah began firing rockets into Israel in solidarity with Hamas after the October 7th attack last year. Then, over the last 2 weeks, Israel launched intense strikes across Lebanon and has killed several high-ranking Hezbollah leaders. Officials in Lebanon say more than 1,000 people have been killed and hundreds of thousands displaced. President Biden said the U.S. is now sending a few thousand more troops to the Middle East to boost security for the U.S. troops already in the region. There are still hundreds of people reported missing in the aftermath of Hurricane Helene, now being called one of the worst storms in U.S. history. As we've been reporting, it swept through the southeast, impacting Florida, Georgia, the Carolinas, Tennessee, and Virginia. And the mountain towns in western North Carolina were especially hit hard with flooding and landslides. Many communities there are still isolated. They can't get in or out because of washed-out roads, and many are still without basic supplies like running water. Authorities are still working to airdrop supplies, restore power, and clear roads. In fact, government officials and aid groups are said to be delivering supplies however they can: air, truck, even mule. The death toll from Hurricane Helene has now topped 130, and sadly, it's expected to rise. But there have also been hundreds of rescues and lives saved across the Southeast. President Biden is promising long-term aid and said he might even call Congress back to Washington to further fund relief efforts. Biden plans to visit North Carolina tomorrow as long as it doesn't disrupt rescue efforts. He also plans to visit Florida and Georgia as soon as possible. Well, both presidential candidates are also responding to the aftermath of Helene. Vice President Kamala Harris visited FEMA headquarters in Washington yesterday, calling the damage from Helene heartbreaking and telling victims that, quote, "Our nation is with you." Former President Donald Trump made a stop in Georgia yesterday, thanking local leaders and emergency responders for their work and saying he stands in solidarity with the people there. Trump criticized Biden and Harris, saying they should be in the area already, and claimed Biden wasn't responding to Georgia's governor, even though both Biden and Georgia Governor Brian Kemp said that's not true. And Harris and other Dems have said politicians shouldn't be getting in the way of emergency workers. Either way, it's not just politicians, government agencies, and nonprofits trying to help. Major retailers like Walmart, Lowe's, and Home Depot, along with a handful of regional grocery chains, are dedicating millions of dollars, supplies, and emergency response teams to help out the communities that have been devastated by the storm. Tonight's the night when the vice presidential candidates will come face-to-face to try to win over American voters. Senator J.D. Vance of Ohio and Minnesota Governor Tim Walz will take the stage for what will likely be their only debate before Election Day. A lot of the rules are pretty similar to what we saw with the presidential debate a few weeks ago, like there will be no opening statements and no in-person audience. But there is one major difference. The candidates' mics will not be muted while their opponent is speaking, though the moderators will be allowed to turn them off if they feel it's needed. CBS Evening News anchor Norah O'Donnell and Face the Nation moderator and chief foreign affairs correspondent Margaret Brennan will moderate this debate. And CBS is experimenting with a new way to offer real-time fact-checking using technology. Instead of leaning on the moderators to weigh in on what's true or not, there will be a QR code on screen for long stretches of the debate, for those who watch on CBS at least. Viewers who use their devices to scan the code will be taken to a CBS News website, where about 20 journalists will be posting fact checks of the candidates' remarks in real time. You can watch live on CBS, its streaming platforms, or online, and nearly every major network will simulcast the debate. It all starts at 9 p.m. Eastern tonight. All right, we have more news for you still coming up. But first, this episode of The Newsworthy is brought to you by Wildgrain. This fall, treat yourself and your loved ones to sourdough breads, fresh pastas, and artisanal pastries from Wildgrain. You won't want to miss the seasonal items they have, too. Rumor has it they have a small number of apple cider donuts, so get those before they sell out. If you're not familiar with Wildgrain, it's the first Bake from Frozen subscription box for artisanal breads, pastries, and pastas. Wildgrain's boxes are fully customizable. In addition to their classic variety box, they recently launched a new gluten-free box and a plant-based box that is 100% vegan. Best of all, they take the hassle out of baking, since all items bake from frozen in 25 minutes or less with no mess or cleanup. Whether I'm throwing the pasta in a pot or the bread in the oven, that's literally all it takes, and my whole family is amazed at the quality and freshness. For a limited time, Wildgrain is offering our listeners $30 off the first box, plus free croissants in every box when you go to wildgrain.com/newsworthy to start your subscription. You heard me, free croissants in every box, and $30 off your first box when you go to wildgrain.com/newsworthy. Wildgrain.com/newsworthy, or use promo code newsworthy at checkout. Okay, now back to the news. Today, Jimmy Carter becomes the first former president to reach 100 years old. He was already the longest-living U.S. president, and now he'll celebrate a century of life in the same small town where he was born, Plains, Georgia, where he's under home hospice care. Of course, all former presidents are historically significant, but Carter's post-presidency career is arguably more notable than his time in office. The 39th president and former governor of Georgia was awarded a Nobel Peace Prize, won 3 Grammys, and served as Habitat for Humanity's best-known advocate. In fact, a benefit concert and 30 new homes are among the many events marking his 100th birthday. Current President Biden also sent Carter birthday wishes, calling him, quote, a moral force for our nation and the world. NBA fans are remembering a Hall of Famer known for his tenacious defense and trademark finger wag celebration. Dikembe Mutombo passed away from brain cancer yesterday. During his 18-year career, Mutombo played for 6 teams and made the All-Star game 8 times. And while he was never known for his scoring, the 7-foot 2-inch center had the second most blocks in league history. Mutombo was also celebrated for his humanitarian work. He was 58. And that wasn't the only big loss in the sports world yesterday. Pete Rose died. He had more hits than anyone in the history of Major League Baseball, but he's equally well known for getting a lifetime ban when he was caught gambling while he managed the Cincinnati Reds. Despite more than 4,200 hits, 3 World Series, and an MVP award, Rose never went to the Hall of Fame because of the ban. He was 83. DirecTV announced it's buying rival Dish Network and the Sling TV brand, creating the largest pay TV service in America. It comes as the companies have struggled to keep subscribers in the streaming era. They argue the deal will bring more competition against the tech-owned streaming platforms like Netflix, Amazon's Prime Video, and more. DirecTV will pay Dish's owner, EchoStar, just $1 for Dish, and in exchange, it agreed to take on billions of dollars in Dish's debt. Meanwhile, AT&T is selling its large stake in DirecTV to a private equity firm. Despite the deals, the businesses say the plan is to keep the Dish and Sling TV brands as is. So even if this deal is approved and finalized, customers won't notice any major changes, at least not yet. If you couldn't use your cell phone or reach someone you know yesterday, you're not alone. Verizon customers across the country lost cell service yesterday. Some affected phones went into SOS mode. That means you can pretty much only make an emergency call, but can't do anything else. The outage apparently started around 9 a.m. yesterday, and by about 5 p.m., Verizon said it had fully restored the network disruption. For anyone still having problems, Verizon suggests restarting your device. At this point, the cause of this outage is not clear. The FCC is now investigating. That's it for the main news today, so now it's time for Trivia Tuesday, when we ask a different trivia question every week. But first, a quick break to thank our sponsor. I admit it, I love pumpkin spice lattes along with beautiful, colorful leaves in the fall. You know what else I love this season? Cozy cashmere sweaters from Quince, starting at just $50. And here's the best part. All Quince items are priced 50 to 80% less than similar brands. By partnering directly with top factories and cutting out the cost of the middleman, Quince is able to pass the savings on to us. And that's true for my other favorite items from Quince, like the organic cotton knit blazer I have. It's super comfortable, yet sophisticated. I can throw it on over my washable silk tank from Quince or another top with jeans and heels and feel like my best self. And it's perfect for this time of year as we transition from summer to fall and the always changing weather calls for layers. I also love that Quince only works with factories that use safe, ethical, and responsible manufacturing practices. And of course, premium fabrics and finishes for that luxury feel in every piece. Get cozy in Quince's high-quality wardrobe essentials. Go to quince.com/newsworthy for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. That's QUINCE.com/newsworthy to get free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/newsworthy. Okay, now back to Trivia Tuesday. And today's trivia question is actually about this podcast in honor of International Podcast Day, which was just yesterday. So the question is, in what year did we release the first episode of The Newsworthy? You can play along with us in our weekly roundup email that comes out each Friday. Sign up to get it at thenewsworthy.com/email. As for last week's trivia question, what does the QR in QR code stand for? The answer is quick response. QR codes were developed by a Japanese company in 1994. Denso Wave was looking for a smaller, more efficient alternative to barcodes, which was especially important to Denso's parent company, Toyota. The automaker had to use so many barcodes to store information on car parts that production was slowing down. Denso's team came up with a pixelated square design. They found the codes could hold 200 times more information than barcodes and still worked when damaged. They also scanned faster than barcodes, so the developers called the new designs quick response codes. As barcodes became more widespread throughout the world during the 2000s, Denso surrendered the patent to QR codes, allowing fast, widespread adoption in the Western world. Then came the pandemic in 2020. As most people remember, restaurants in particular rushed to switch from handheld menus to scannable QR code versions since customers prioritized touch-free experiences. And many businesses have continued using them now, since more people are familiar with how they work. Actually, we mentioned at the top of the show, QR codes will even be used to help fact-check the vice presidential debate in real time tonight. All right, thank you so much for listening and making us part of your daily routine. We'll be back tomorrow with more news you need to know. Until then, have a great day.